It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That is brand new David Reece from just called Reece. Some solo stuff from David. And the name of that tune there is called Judgment Day. Probably one of my favorite tracks on this new release. And on the phone with us, we got the one and only, the great vocalist, David Reece. How are you, David?
Wow. Kind of hard to follow that introduction, but I'll say thank you and greetings to everybody. Funny you said Judgment Day. I'm hearing that all the time now, and my manager's up my ass to shoot a video for that one, so it looks like I got to get busy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I dig that song a lot. I like the change-ups in it. I like the different instrumentation in it. But one thing about this new release that I was really digging a lot, and this is lacking for a lot of recordings that I hear just because of budgetary and people maybe not knowing what they're doing, but the production on this thing is just amazing. It's absolutely fantastic. It's ballsy. It's in your face. I listened to the tunes here on some professional monitors here in the studio, and everything is just mixed as well as separated perfectly when it comes to the vocals and the instruments.
Thank you. I got to give all kudos to Andy Susamil. I mean, he produced it, mixed it, and arranged it with me, and I'm going to give him basically all the credit. I mean, that was a condition of going back to work with Andy, and we've done a few records together before, but he has improved tenfold as a producer. I mean, we had it mastered by a guy separately. Typically producers, they'll master it as well. The guy's name is Matt's Mix is what we call it, and they actually tested it on a Abbey Road mastering lab. They had a seminar in Frankfurt, and when they cranked it up, all the guys that were, the gurus kind of looked around at Andy and the mastering guy and said, "Don't touch it." So,
yeah,
I mean, when you get that kind of, Andy was working song by song with, levels, like you said, with the mastering guy separately. So, they made sure they nailed it. So thank you very much. I'm really pleased with this.
Well, I'm glad I'm glad I keyed in on something that really stood out, and there was actually a conscious effort to do that, because it really does show.
Thank you. I mean, Andy will love to hear that. I would suggest him with anybody. But beyond being a stellar guitarist and singer, he's really got it. I mean, I'm thrilled.
Yeah, absolutely. So, David, you're obviously very involved in the music world. Your legacy goes back decades now, but it seems like you're in a very creative period here over the last 3 years or so. Is that a fair assessment? You seem like you're creatively engaged, I guess.
Well, it's you got to kind of awaken the beast. It's in there. But I think it's a work in progress, and the more I stay focused, it seems the more it flows. And I'm not one of those guys that gets an idea and ponders it. I get busy on it, and I record it, and I listen to it, and if it's got a good smell to it, I'll stay with it. And I usually after about an hour or so, I'll realize if it doesn't. So, but yeah, I try to keep the flows going, and I try to turn off all that negative crap going on around me, and just I got to make a song, and I thank you for noticing that. I think it's, it doesn't matter your age or whatever. If you've got it flowing, let it go.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I've talked to other artists who are, and this is not any kind of a knock on anybody, but they're in the twilight of their career, as it were. They've had a lot of years behind them, and they're still busy out there. And, given the state of the record industry and the music industry in general, I always ask, why do you make a full album? Why do you do that anymore? Not that I don't appreciate it, but the answer I usually get is, well, if you're a painter, you have to paint. No matter what, no matter what the environment is, you just have to do it. You need a creative outlet. Is that true for you?
Yeah, and it's weird because for me, I don't like, as a painter, I would imagine they start a canvas and they think about something and then they start flowing with their hand. And it's kind of like with a record with me, when I finish all the lyrics and stuff and start adding the vocals, it seems like I've kind of said something, that I was trying to say. I'm not aware of it. And then I listen back to it and go, okay, that's what I was trying to say. I don't know if I answered your question, but doing singles, I think a lot of the major artists are trying that are still selling 30,000, 40,000 tickets. Their labels basically just say, let's stick one on the wall if it works, and we write another single. That's kind of the forte now for the larger artists. But I don't know. I'd rather do a whole record and then tour it, If it's small clubs, theaters, bigger halls. I mean, I'd like to test the waters,
Sure.
See if it's working.
Now, where does the audience allow you to play new music? Because as you're aware, I'm sure, over the last 25 years or so, when, known artists, name artists go out there and they tour a new record and whatnot, especially if they have a deep catalog, the fans want to hear the hits because they're, they're casual fans. This is what I heard on the radio, so this one is a good song. But then you go, hey, I want to break out something new. Okay, Beer and Piss Break. It's like, it's like, how does that affect you?
I have to do that. Of course, I got to play some of the Eat the Heat stuff where I have to kick off on the UDO tour last spring. I mean, I played 4 or 5 off that album, and I needed to, obviously. Oh, yeah, that's that guy that replaced Udo for a while.
Yeah.
That's that album we hated or we really loved. And then, of course, I was promoting the album Resilient Heart, so I threw in some of that. We had about 45 minutes set on that tour. So I crammed in as much nostalgia as I could and as much of the new material as I could. But there is a lot of truth to that. There are people that come to see you, and if you don't play that song, they're in the merch booth going, I drove 2 hours to hear this track, why don't you play it?
Right.
And a lot of times I'll bring those songs up that they actually ask about, and the band will say, nah, I don't feel it. And I say, we have to play it.
Yeah, it's got to be there.
Yeah, and then you've got these nostalgia tours. I mean, look what happens in the U.S. particularly. You've got these 4-band packages, Night Ranger, Journey, Foreigner, I mean, year after year after year, and they're playing nothing but those top 10 singles.
Well,
because those fill seats. That puts asses in seats, and that, kind of sad in a way.
Well, it is sad, and here's the thing, and I just want to get your take on this. If there was a commercial outlet like, radio or an MTV still these days, and it still had some impact on the, public, and people actually still listen to that, or what happened years ago, and I know you know this, when a radio station or a programmer picks up a song from, let's just say, AC/DC, and they play that song on rotation, people are more apt to go, man, that's a good song, And when they go to the show and they play that song, yeah. But if it's a song that they never heard before, it's like, what the fuck is this? Radio didn't play this, so I guess it's not very good. So I'm just not going to listen.
Yeah, it's a weird thing when you talk about a band like AC/DC. I think they could shit on the stage and people would go nuts. I mean, they've got this insanely loyal following that. But I think they still release great albums. But the radio did mold for a long time what you were. I mean, you had to write the power ballad in the 80s, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You had to have the big love song, and then you had to have the big whoa whoa sing along chorus. The Bon Jovi, I think he kind of cut that mold to get everybody stuck in that rut, which I think actually ended up killing us all because every band had a bleach blonde hair singer and 2 guitar players with pink guitars and explosions. And I think a lot of the kids, the economy was changing, the dynamic of the world was changing. A lot of people just didn't feel like I can get as much pussy as that guy can. Of course he can, because he's on TV 15 times a day.
Sure.
I want to listen to a guy talk about, what I'm thinking about. So video, that was another one. That one killed the radio star. I really do believe, though, if a really cool program came back and say went after us old farts and these new guys, because there's a lot of new great bands that are getting nothing. If they actually spent the time and money, we could reopen that channel. But it's like they just went, nah, it's dead. We can't do it. They've given up all hope. you know. And when the ones that are on still, they're doing drama shows, you know, families fighting over things and drugs, and it's not even about music.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, I was thinking about this a little bit before we began talking, and I was playing that song Judgment Day, and I was thinking to myself, man, if there was still a commercial outlet that would pump a song like this, it would be a hit. It would be a big hit in my mind anyway, as a programmer or someone who's been doing this for 25 years. I would listen to that, and if I was programming a station, I go, yeah, let's throw that into rotation, you know. But that's not
how Van Halen broke. I mean, Van Halen was tested in Reno, Nevada. Okay? And I think 1,500 people called in that day. They did. You really got me an eruption. People were like, what in the hell is that? Because the program director, a lot of guys had gotten it, but they weren't interested, you know. But one station blew that band wide open, basically. And we don't have that. I mean, a guy like you, say you're the PD or you're the number one DJ or the night guy, and you get a record and they say, here's the single, and you flip it over and go, this Judgment Day song is better. I'm going to throw that on the air and see what happens. Yeah. And then say, you know, and back then, you know, I remember as a kid, I had idols that were DJs. There was one called Killer Kirschbaum at KQRS in Minneapolis when I was a kid. Her voice was sexy. She played the B-sides, you know, those 8-minute songs. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't wait to listen to her show. She was as much of a personality as the music, in my opinion. It was a whole different, you know, thing. I mean, radio, then it went so commercial where you had a disc that played the same 20 songs all day because the advertisers, of course, are keeping the station funded. And they're not going to fund you unless you play those songs because that market is in the car at lunch hour or at drive home time. Right. You know, it commercialized itself to death. I think Steve Lukather, and I always quote this, he said it, I think it was Rolling Stone, music has become like McDonald's drive-thru. And like when you go to McDonald's, and I'm guilty of it too, the first thing I reach in the bag for are the French fries. By the time I leave the drive-thru and onto the main street, I've forgotten what I ate. Exactly. You know what I mean? I mean, know what you mean. Yeah. What did you do for dinner? And we went to McDonald's, but what did I eat? I mean, I gorged the whole large fry before I even left the friggin' drive-thru. Right. And music has just become kind of like this thing that, I don't know, you see these halftime shows and stuff. It's like, what is that? Let's cram in 30 dance songs with 800 people, and it's just not the same. I mean, it's really sad. I wish guys like you were out pushing, you know, bands and there were radio stations that actually, you know. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, my partner Chris and I, we do debut new music, and my partner Chris, because he runs all of our social media for the Classic Metal Show, he puts together playlists every week. Here's the new playlist from the CMS, you know, and he'll mix in, you know, stuff like, say, like this new Reece album, or, you know, he'll mix in, you know, maybe a classic or something. But regardless of that, he puts together a playlist. Here's your weekly Classic Metal Show playlist. This features new music from Mudhoney, or this features new music from so-and-so. And, you know, that's the only way we can do it. And we have a lot of fans who come back and go, hey, thanks for turning me on to that band. I would have never known if you hadn't told me. But that's what radio did years ago. You wouldn't have known about Judas Priest had radio not told you, you know, because you would have gone, no, Judas Priest, what is that? You know, but radio played it. Oh, well, this must be cool because it's live and it's on the air and it's coming through my car speaker. Right. And every show that they did when they were pounding the ground, they would go to these stations like yours, sit there for 2 or 3 hours and talk to the DJs, and then, you know, have ticket giveaways and play those B-sides. And kids became more, you know, when they went into British Steel, that era, that broke the United States, as you well know. The British invasion, there was just so much, I don't know, there was a magic in the air, you know, and I'm grateful for guys like you because, you know, with Chris, I've known him for a while, and he told me the same thing. They gotta expose. Without the exposure, we're done. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's so much out there that people have to search on YouTube or social media, and they might find you, but then again, they might not. Right. And you've got to be willing to market yourself. It's all self-employed now. I mean, back in the days, I have a manager, and he works his ass off for me. But even more so now, I'm the guy doing all of this. And back in those days, there was a guy hired for this and a guy hired for that, a girl over here for that, in every city or every, Now it's me on an iPhone, Skyping, interviewing, talking about my career, my shows, because if I didn't, I'd be lost in this shuffle of iPods of guys that hoard 500 songs a day. They don't even know what they're stealing off the internet because they say, hey, I got 2,000 songs. How many you got?
Yeah.
It's like this, it's a game.
Yeah, it's
There's
like
value.
It's like collecting baseball cards or something.
Exactly. But that was even cooler because, you'd go to your friend's house. Did you collect baseball cards?
Oh, yeah, I got a ton of them.
Yeah, man. And I love the gum inside. And I played baseball, and I knew my players. Those were cool. Because you could actually go network with your friends and trade and talk about the players. You knew the stats. It's kind of like rock and roll was.
Yeah, absolutely.
You heard a story about Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, or what was the mysterious Led Zeppelin up to? What mystical planet had they landed on with this new album? And what does that album cover mean? And that's the same thing with the artwork. Vinyl's, kind of edging back a little bit, which is nice. People can actually see the cover. So if you're limited even with your advertisement with a CD cover, you can't cram like what they could in the old days, on a CD cover and actually make out what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I got a bunch of vinyl too, and
nice.
I've been collecting ever since. In fact, I was kind of funny. I was looking through my vinyl collection, and I came across the very first 45 that I bought as a 10-year-old.
No way.
As a 10-year-old. I bought it
at what was it?
It was a garage sale. It was Instant Karma's Gonna Get You on a Apple 45.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think I had that one when I was a kid too.
Yeah, I bought it for 25 cents at a garage sale.
Beautiful.
So,
was it still in great shape?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
So stuff like that. But I'm a collector. I'm old school like you. I like that kind of stuff. So here you are with a new solo. Would you consider this? I guess this is a solo release, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excluding the contracts that I'd signed a few years ago to commit to. I really want to just be a solo artist. Keeping a band together in this same environment you and I are talking about. Yeah. Because what it also has created is it's killed the unity thing, where guys are in 10 different bands at 10 different times. So it's really hard to sit down and be a unit, because this guitar player, that bass player, is playing with so-and-so, and he's got 10 shows. So you got to wait for that to be done and book around that and blah, 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 blah. So I just said, you know what? There's no such thing in rock and roll as democracy. That's a lie. There's one or two guys who kind of lead everything around.
Yeah, Jane and Paul.
Yeah. And it's that was a lie that I told myself, thinking that I could have a band of brothers. Bullshit. And anybody that's out there that's in a band knows what I mean. They can talk all the trash they want that we're a brotherhood, but somebody offers you a couple $100 extra per gig, you're out the door. Love you, brother. Great playing with you, but that's gone. But I am. I want to consider myself a solo artist. I just actually returned from Bulgaria about 4 days ago. I had committed to sing on the new John Steele album. Blaze Bayley had done an album with them, and Doogie White. And I was called in because Doogie went out with Schenkerfest, of course, and as a gig, because he wanted to play and work and get paid. So they were desperate for a singer and said, "Could you fill in these gigs?" And I said, "Yeah." And then we did some Hammerfall dates, and then he said, "Hey, will you do the new album?" So I did do that, and it's really good. It's kind of Maiden-esque, progressive, heavy stuff. And then I'm doing a record with my Spanish bassist, because my bass player right now actually is on the road with Ian Pace, doing a Deep Purple Perpendicular thing, which is amazing because I've sang in that band a few times. And to play with one of the greatest drummers in the world, why not? And Ian Pace demands that my bass player is on stage or he won't do it. So I have a fill-in bassist from Spain named Gorka that he wrote an album, and I told him I would sing on it, so I'm writing on that. But above and that, unless it's something really, 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 really special, I'm going to stick to Dave. And I need a guy like Andy, though. Even though Andy's a solo artist himself, what you hear is what works, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wanted to ask you about this title track, this Cacophony of Souls. That opening lead vocal, is that you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, so that's a whole different register for you, you know.
All the lonely
exactly. It was like almost like a Johnny Cash in some regard, you know.
Cool, thanks, man. Great compliment. I grew up on country music. I'm originally from Oklahoma, so in our house, my granny had the big console with the TV and the turntable and the 8-track, and all day long it was George Jones and Hank Sr. and you know, Conway and all of them. But I'm also a David Bowie fan, and the colors in his voice, you know, the older you get, the note you kind of go, you know what? I don't have to scream balls out and everything. I've already made my point. Let's build it. And now that you've said that, I did another interview yesterday, and somebody asked me, "Is that you?" I go, "Yeah," because Resilient Heart, the album before this, my other solo album, there's a song called "Live Before You Die," and I sing in that lower register. And the guy's wife that I wrote it with was like, "Oh my God, but you're touching that David Bowie spirit." I said, "Thanks. That's, you know, I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you got all these singers that have to show the world that they've got this falsetto thing that they can hit these notes, and after about 2 or 3 songs, I just turn it off."
Yeah, sure. Yeah, who do you think you are, Jeff Tate?
Huh?
I said, who do you think you are, Jeff Tate?
Yeah, I mean, even him. I mean, I did a gig with him last summer. I mean, he knows his limits. He knows his age. He's reaching up there and touching a few of those notes of old. But you know, his lower register is beautiful to listen to, and he was singing a lot lower than he did before, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. As those cigarettes and wine will catch up with you after a while.
Yeah, and age, man. I mean, it's all part of the
unless you're Dio.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, even I saw Dio on the last Vakken show they did, and I was almost in tears. You could see Ronnie was not feeling well, and it was you've probably seen the performance.
I did.
Unbelievable. I mean, the guy was near death and just like a venom still in his voice. You could hear that he was tired, but my God, he was better than I'll ever be on my best day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, David, tell us a little bit about this Cacophony of Souls. When did you start, writing this? Is this a bunch of ideas you had, or is this all fresh new material, or where did all this come from?
Well, that track in particular, the title track, was written musically by a guy named Martin Frank. He's in a band called Shotgun Revolution in Denmark. And I had written some songs with him on my last solo album because I had made up my mind before Resilient Heart came out. I'm done with this band nonsense. And I was in Montana. That's kind of where I was born in Oklahoma, but I'm a Montana boy. That's what I consider. I live in Italy now. I'm married to an Italian woman. But he and I started kind of, emailing back and forth, and we wrote 3 or 4 songs together. But Cacophony of Souls was one of those songs that I didn't put on that record. And it was one of those where you're sitting on the toilet, and then I'm leaning over on the floor with a piece of paper, and I'm listening to his guitar riff, writing the words. So I brought it to Andy, and it didn't have a solo, so Andy put that killer solo in it. So that one was written with Martin Frank. The 2 tracks on the album, I have to say, my bass player, as I mentioned earlier, Malta, Frederick Burkhardt, he's the bassist guy for Ian Pace on these Perpendicular shows. And he's done 4 or 5 albums with me, and he and I toured all over Europe together. And I never knew he could write, because he always was like, well, the album's done, but I would like to contribute sometime, but he never showed me anything. So normally what I like to tell this story where when I go to Hamburg where he lives, I get there usually first. He picks me up. I go to his house. I'm exhausted. He's a night guy. I'm a day guy. So I'm laying on the bed, and he's wandering around the house talking all night long. Please, Malta, shut up. And he's playing an old Gibson Explorer that he's got. And he's playing this riff, and he goes, yeah, I wrote this. And I go, what is that? And it was really good. It turned into Collective Anesthesia. I said, you wrote that? He goes, yeah, and I've got this one, which was A Perfect World. I said, dude, let's let's write that. So we sent it to Andy. We kind of put it together, and then I wrote the words with Andy on it. And it's nice to know that he's actually a prolific writer as well, because, you know, Malta's a few years younger than me, and he grew up on Megadeth and the heavy stuff. He's a Maiden freak. So, you know, bringing that fresh blood into the songs, I think you can kind of hear that. But the other tracks, Andy and I, like I said, when I retired from music for about 9 years, I was ranching in Colorado or Montana, and I didn't want anything to do with music after, you know, the world came to an end in the early 90s. So when I came back, I had known Andy since the Accept days, because we met while he was doing Udo Mean Machine, and I was doing Eat the Heat with Accept. And Andy and I hit it off because we were kind of like the new guys that everybody avoided, you know, and they weren't sure about us. So we go to the pub every night, get shit-faced, and hang out. And we developed a good friendship. So I came back to rock and roll in 2007, and about 9 years off. And I did an album called Universal Language, a solo album with Andy in his bedroom. He was taking care of his ailing mother, who's sadly since passed, but that was the kickoff. So Andy and I have done a bunch of songwriting together and stuff. So this album was a collective of lyric ideas, titles, but I have to say, you hand it over to Andy, and he comes back with this rip and rip. Now, when I did the UDO Steel Factory tour, every night I studied Udo, because guy's a German fucking tank.
He is.
He's got a loyal following, and every night there was between 800 to 1,000 plus in these large rooms, you know, of loyal, dedicated Udo people. So I studied the tempos, what songs I did from Eat the Heat that worked, and blah, blah, blah. So I ran into Andy in Stuttgart, and he had this long face, and he said, I need to be up there with you. And the two guitar players that I worked with, they were really good, but it just wasn't quite the good that you got here in, you know, Cacophony of Souls. I knew that I needed to get Andy back. So we sat down and we said to each other, we're going to do this. We're going to make it modern. We're going to make it metal. And we're going to make it in your fucking face. And I think we achieved that. But I have to say, he was a major driving force in that whole creative, you know, thing, whatever you call it.
Right. Well, I was watching a movie the other day, and this kind of, you know, I hadn't seen this movie before. It's about 5 years old. I wasn't aware of it. I just ran across it on Netflix. I don't know if you ever seen it, but it's Al Pacino. He plays a aging rock star, Danny Collins. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah. Yeah. He plays piano. He's doing the Vegas kind of thing. Yeah.
So he's like, I'm going to write a new album after all these years. And, you know, I want to showcase it. I want a special, you know, small, intimate show where I could play my new music. And, you know, the Danny Collins fans show up, play your hits, man, play your hits. And he just kind of froze up on the stage. And instead of, you know, breaking out the new tunes, which was the whole idea, he just kind of relented and go, well, I give the fans what they want, you know, and he kind of kind of failed himself, because he, you know, it's just like, well, I guess I can't play anything new because apparently nobody wants to hear it.
I mean, who wants to hear a new Barry Manilow song?
Exactly.
Think about it. I think it's kind of the Barry Manilow story.
Sure it is.
Elton John.
Sure it is.
Elton John, nobody gives a shit. I mean,
or Neil Diamond.
Oh yeah. I mean, look at that guy. I mean, that guy did something to the American. I don't know what it is. The core. I mean, so you got to do that stuff. I never had that status, but. That movie, I remember it well. Him snorting coke and you know, being a maniac, you know, being separated from his kids because he was touring all the time. And that's my story. Man.
Yeah, well, that's why I kind of brought it up, because that's kind of what reminds me of conversations like this, because you get a guy like yourself who's still active and still you know, relevant in you know, being having the ability to write and sing and, you know, record a very balls out record. But the thing is you present this to the fans in a live setting, and it's just like, yeah, great, play the hits.
It's a terrible truth. I mean, like I said, I was expected. Doing the Eat the Heat stuff with UDO, and the funny thing with Udo was I hadn't seen him for quite some time, and we've always been pretty good chums. He treated me with nothing but respect. When I replaced him, he was next door. He never, ever acted crazy with me. He was sitting on the toilet behind the door, and I could see these feet, and I was doing the ba 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 ba, and I hear this voice, "Shut the fuck up!" And I'm like, "Udo, what do you think it is? Shut your fucking mouth! You know, why you make this noise?" I'm like, "Oh, I got to get ready." He goes, "It's rock. Go out and fucking do it." You know. But the thing about Udo is his character is a big selling point, and he didn't play one accept song on that tour. Okay? Yeah. I mean, he did Back to the Roots a few years ago, but he played all Udo material, and everybody freaking knew it. And that new album, I mean, that everybody knew that too.
Sure.
He played a lot of, yeah. So he's fortunate that way, where he can go back, do his accept tribute, and then he can, you know, throw a new album out. Yeah, but it's a truth. I mean, I have to play those songs. I tested Blood on Our Hands and Metal Voice live. We did like 9 shows together with Andy over the summer into November last year. And a lot of the fans came up to me and said, "Is that going to be on the new album?" I said, "Yeah." And they go, "Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Keep going, Reece." Because after I do those gigs, you know, those tours last year, everybody go, "Can you know, I got to know you from Eat the Heat. And I mean, you're a great blues rock singer, but, you know, your metal thing is great. Could you do that?" And I'm like, I better start listening to the voices, you know. And that's what we did. We kind of went at it like, because Firepower had come out, right? Priest. Yeah. And their whole packaging, you know, kind of had the Screaming for Vengeance look a little bit. And, you know, I'm listening to Halford and he's killing it. And I'm going, you know what? Yeah. I got to get my head right.
Yeah, you got to step up the game there.
Yeah, yeah, because that's what it is. It's a game, full contact sport.
Absolutely. Well, what else do you want to tell us about this new record there, David?
Well, sum it up. I booked a bunch of gigs so far. The release, pre-release, is the 14th of February. You can pre-order it. It's on El Puerto Records. I was on Mighty Music for a while. Wasn't satisfied, and when I was with El Puerto before, I can say they did a stellar knockdown job, like talking to people like you of promotion. So I called them up and said, "Hey, you want me back?" They go, "Fuck yeah, what do you got?" So I played them some of these songs, and of course they went, "Holy shit." Anyways, the official release date is March 13th, and that's our first gig at a place called Kreuz Obermachtal in Germany, and then the following night is in Bellenberg at a place called Traube, kind of a home stomping ground for the label and for us, the South German area. Then I go to UK in April. I'm doing 5 in England and 2 in Scotland. Then I go Spain, back to Luxembourg, you know, Belgium, Holland, festivals. And then right now I'm in the waiting list for the big ones over the summer, Sweden Rock, Bakken, you know. Cool. Yeah, I'm really just honored to be able to talk to people like you and just, you know, talk about what I do.
Well, it is a real honor to talk to me.
I love that. I know. Nice to meet you. I know. I know it is, right? That's a David Lee Roth thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
God, it's great to meet you. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Gotta love it, man. Yeah. Gotta love it.
All right. Well, David, where can people find you on the internet, which is, you know, basically the biggest marketing tool for anybody?
Yeah, I'm a Facebook whore. David Reece Official, Friends of David Reece, and then I have a special website that my wonderful Italian wife, who is up my ass every day to keep it current. We just updated a bunch today. It's called davidreeceofficial.info. And when your interview comes out, I'm going to post that there. I have like a media section. I mean, I have the past. There's photos of me as a dumb idiot in the beginning. And there's, you know, tour photos and everything that you need to know about what my crazy life is doing. And I actually am doing some re-release vinyl things. I'm going to re-release Bangalore Choir on vinyl. It's just a one-time thing on Target. And then the 2 Circle of Silence albums that I'd written with Greg Chason from Badlands and Steve Plunkett from Autograph was part of that back in the day before I retired. So we're going to do special vinyl releases of that. I'm not sure if Cacophony of Souls will be on vinyl. I'm not sure if we're going to do it, but it is CD and all the other new, what do you call it, streaming platforms available to one and all if they want to plug in and pay, you know.
Exactly. All right. Well, perfect. Well, if you're a David Reece fan, go pick up this new CD, Cacophony of Souls. This thing is a balls out in your face, kick in the crotch as far as I'm concerned. Just the production and the ballsiness. That's all I can say. It's just a ballsy record. And I think if you're a classic metal fan, this is right up your alley. So go pick it up and enjoy.
Right on. Thanks, man. Thank you for the interview, and it's been great.
Perfect. Well, as a tradition here, Dave, we always let the artist pick something off the new release and tell us a quick story about it.
You know, I'm going to say, if we're going to get heavy, Blood on Our Hands is a real favorite of mine. Now, I'm a Priest fanatic. I love Rob Halford. That one grabs me, and I'm going to do a video for it. It's about all of us that got dirt on our hands. No matter what you've done in life, we've all done something we regret. But I'm actually writing a storyboard for this one. It's called Blood on Our Hands. It's balls out in your face. The guitars are insane. Let's push that one.
All right, perfect. All right, well, here it is. This is some brand new David Reece from the Cacophony of Souls, and this is Blood on Our Hands, exclusively here on Your Classic Metal Show.